The following podcast is brought to you exclusively by the Rad Rob Radio Network. Imagine a place where mental health, resilience, sports, and the power to never give up all come together. This show is about life. It's about mental health. It's about bouncing back stronger than ever. This is Reset and Rise to the Unbreakable with Amanda Moore.
Hey guys, welcome back to Reset and Rise with Amanda Moore. This is episode number 5. I'm your host, Rad Rob Francois, along with the one and only Miss Amanda Moore. Good evening, Amanda.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm hanging in there. I woke up on the right side of the fence today, so I guess that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, that is a good thing.
How's your week been?
It's been interesting. I've had kind of a rough couple days, as I've told you before, when it comes to anxiety. So, been finding ways to stay busy, and I don't know. I'm a little bit overwhelmed too this week. So I used some spinning earlier to help get my mind clear for tonight's show. And I think I told you earlier the same thing I spoke to our guest a little bit ago on the phone and let her know that sometimes, even though I'm trying to make a difference for other people, I feel that this podcast helps me as well, brings me back down to ground level and makes me realize what I'm thankful for and what good I do have going on in my life instead of focusing on all of the terrible things.
Yeah, seriously.
Or things that cause us to maybe have a day that seems like we're in chaos. So
yeah.
It's good for me as well. But otherwise it's been good. Can't really complain too much. Still hot.
Yes, it's hot here too. In fact, it's so hot my upstairs air conditioner can't keep up with it, and it's warm up here. But in any event, so how did you find our special guest tonight?
So she used to go by Caitlyn. It was Caitlyn Competitive Shooter on Facebook. We became friends. I have quite a few Facebook friends that are competitive shooters. And so I started following her, and she had quite the journey. It was just really interesting to watch a young athlete just take the world by storm. She is very good at what she does. And then I started to notice there were some changes going on, and then she had some things happen. She graduated high school, and then she got into a near fatal car wreck. And so that changed things for a while, and I saw her page go away. So I lost touch with her for a little while. I didn't know what happened to it. And you know how the algorithms work. Sometimes you don't see people
Yes.
for a long time because you just don't interact with them anymore. And so I happened to reach out to somebody that knows her, and they told me what name she goes by now. And I found her under Katelynn Cochran, reached out to her and kind of reconnected. And we found out we have quite a bit in common. She's just a very inspiring young girl. The first time I talked to her, it was hard for me. She literally brought me pretty much to tears.
Yeah.
And then I talked to her again today. So I try to keep in contact with her. I think it's really good. For adults that are at, twice their age, just to give them some hope and aspiration to keep going in life, especially with everything she's been through. But she's a very mature young lady. So I'm excited to have her on the show.
Well, let's not waste any more time. Let's bring her in. Welcome, Katelynn Cochran, to the show. Good evening, Caitlyn.
Good evening. Hi. Thank you guys for having me on.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we've been excited. So I know I talked to you on the phone a little bit ago, just to kind of get some more groundwork. I just wanted to open the show kind of with something because I don't know a lot about guns. Like I told you before, I have a lot of friends that I follow that are competitive shooters. I just think it's amazing what you guys are able to do and how good you are at and with your athleticism in the sport. So I asked you earlier, what is 3-gun? I have no idea what that is.
Yeah, so 3-gun pretty much. 3-gun, it's how do I even start to explain this? So pretty much you have a rifle, pistol, and shotgun. Typically, 12 gauge, 9mm, and 223. And there is a course of fire. It's very different from your everyday like pistol shooting competitions. There's arrays of targets. You've got barrel dumps. You're running sometimes through the woods. You're running up and over berms. There's a lot that goes along with it, but 3-gun is one of those competitions that you get into because you want to be more athletic, and there's more than just standing in a box for a couple seconds. There's part times anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes, so you're consistently running and gunning the entire time. So that's kind of what 3-gun is.
Okay. It's one thing I picked up on that I noticed in your story that you sent to us, and I'm like, I don't even know what that is. I'll just let her in it. So in 2020 is when you began competitive shooting. At what age were you? 2020?
I was 15.
15. Okay. So what got you into competitive shooting in the first place?
Yeah. So my parents and I, we lived down in Arkansas. I was born and raised in Arkansas. And then due to some life-changing events, we decided to move here to Missouri and moved into Cross Timbers. And then my mother and I, we went to work for Lucas Cattle Company, and they had a range right there on the ranch. And at that time, like, I kind of like knew that there was such thing as competitive shooting, but I didn't at the same time even knew what that even meant. And again, I was 15 years old. My background before shooting was showing livestock and being around livestock my whole life. So guns were a thing, but it was never, I didn't know there was anything other than, hunting and, your everyday grandpa who has a gun in his house. And so there was an event that had happened, and at the time they were still hosting PCC nationals out at the range, and I had got to know one of the guys there, and then they started having 3-gun matches. And one of the main matches that they had there for a while, it was the Blue Line 3-gun event, and my coach Tobin Babcock, he is the one that put it on, and all the proceeds went to Concerns of Police Survivors, the COPS Foundation. And it was a really great event. But the first event that they had on, Tobin kind of grabbed me, and wasn't necessarily all him. It was more of also just kind of like where I was at. Like I was just helping, doing some stuff here and there. And then year 2 of the event, Tobin grabbed me and was like, you're going to shoot the match. And I looked at it, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea what I'm doing. I barely even know what this is. I don't own any firearms myself. I don't have any gear. And he was like, well, and he kind of like turned around and looked at like all the other ROs, and all of them were like, well, okay, are you gonna like, what do you want her to shoot? And so they all just started grabbing all this equipment out of the back of the trucks. They started grabbing ammo, throwing it all together in a bin. They started grabbing extra equipment. And I started shooting. That night that he told me that he wanted me to shoot the match, I held a shotgun for the very first time. And then I also did a little bit of like how to maneuver with like an AR and stuff like that. I've never obviously slung a rifle before, learned how to do that. And then the next morning, I think it was like 7:30 a.m., we got up and I started shooting. And it was the first stage I got done, and I want to say it was like a 5-minute part-time because it was a pretty long, and it was a pretty decently athletic match. And I remember I barely got through like the first array of targets, and the time was already up. And everyone, like the look on everyone's faces, I guess they thought that I was going to be one of those people that just started breaking down in tears. I mean, I can't blame them. I was 15 years old, and I didn't even get close to the end. But I remember turning around, and Tobin looked at me, and I had the biggest smile on my face, and he was like, well, and I was like, can I do that again? And everyone just started laughing. And since that first stage, I mean, we got through the rest of the match. I kept competing. I helped RO that match, and the rest is pretty much history.
So Tobin was your coach instructor?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you said in 2022 was your best year with competitive shooting that you had experienced. Okay. So at the time then you were 17, probably almost 18. Okay. So I remember seeing some things on your Facebook that you had won or had done in that year specifically.
Mhm.
What could you give us a couple of examples of what you
Yes.
what you competed in?
Yeah, so there was a lot of things. So some of the guns that you see were like sponsored guns. So there for a couple years I was sponsored by Stag Arms, and part of the sponsorship agreement was I didn't take, but they sent me some firearms to use for competitive shooting, and then I did social media marketing for them, stuff like that on my personal end. Obviously repped them on my jerseys, stuff like that. Year 2022, though, I did win a IWI Masada Slim 9mm pistol that I got in. It was during Superstition. Superstition is a 3-gun match in Arizona that they have every year. And that was the first gun that I was actually able to pick up off the prize table, which was surreal to me. I didn't think I would ever be able to I didn't think I would ever be in that position to be able to walk away with a gun, but I did. Yeah.
So how at that point in time from 15 to 17 you were one of the best youth shooters in the United States, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So how much time per week were you putting in on top of school with practicing for your competitive shooting?
So that that was a fun one. So I was going through high school, but I guess the good thing about it all is I was in a little small town, very small school district. My graduating class was, I think, 23 kids. So
Oh, wow.
it was very, very small. And started off, my principal actually found out that I was a competitive shooter, and he was like, "What is this?" And so I just started talking to him about it. And year 2022 was my junior senior year of high school. So like beginning was junior and then senior, and 3-gun competitions don't really start kicking off until around March, April, sometimes May, depending on what matches I wanted to go to that season. And then it was every single weekend. Year 2022, I was not home for 2.5 weeks straight because I shot one match and then I was traveling to the next match because I didn't have enough time to come home. But along with school and stuff, senior year, I had already had pretty much all my credits. There was only a couple things that I really needed to accomplish to be able to graduate. And I was really close to my teachers. I was extremely involved in FFA and FBLA. And so I just talked to all of them. I was like, hey, I want to keep doing all these other events, but competitive shooting is close to my heart. I will be gone like so many days at the start of the school year and then so many days at the end of the school year. Is there any way I can get my work done ahead of time, or can you send it to me? And so the first portion of, I would say the first like 2.5 months of my senior year, I either was almost a homeschool kid, but still going through like the high school curriculum and still getting all of the stuff that I needed done for high school. Or I think there was only like 1 week that I was actually in school within those 2.5 months.
Wow.
The rest of it, like
did you end up graduating early from high school, or did you graduate with your class?
No, I graduated from my class. That was I had a lot of people ask me before way before senior year even happened. They're like, "Are you going to graduate early? Do you want to graduate early?" And I really thought about it. I had all the credits to be able to do that, but at the same time, I wanted to finish out my senior year with my friends.
So you graduate in 2023?
Yes. Yep. Okay. May of 2023, I graduated.
Okay. So then I remember you saying you graduated May of 2023, and that's when you decided you wanted to become a firearms instructor. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So who were you going to go through for your the firearms instructor stuff when you started looking into it? Was that part of the same branch of the competitive shooting division that you were a part of, or was it something completely different?
It was something completely different to a certain extent. So I had actually started thinking about becoming an instructor before I was even close to graduating. For the main purpose being one of my optics sponsor at the time, Lucid Optics. He was friends with another guy named Jason, and I got kind of close with that family. And he owned Wyotac and was doing instructing on his own. Like he had already had his license, all of that. He is out of Wyoming. And I had gone out to some of his instructing events because he wanted a female instructor. And even though I didn't have my license, it was essentially what the class is a female retreat to where they could come out, try out firearms for the first time. If they were scared, they got to actually lay hands on. And he wanted a female there that could shoot and that could, resonate with these other women and kind of help them in a different way of understanding what a firearm is, how to properly manipulate it, and then also not to be scared. Yeah. So that's kind of how all of that came about. And then in February of 2023, I had gone back out to Wyoming and was talking with them and everything. And then when I graduated, my father and I at the time, we had gone back up to Wyoming and decided to really sit down and have the conversation with Jason. And he was like, all right, if you want to do this, we're going to do this. And he put me in touch with Rob Pincus, which pretty much created his own program. It's the IDS. And I was going to be one of the first females and one of the youngest people to ever essentially get my certificate for the course to be able to instruct. And when the wreck happened June 12th, and I was supposed to go down June 16th. I had a flight already and everything. All I had to do was fly out to Wyoming and take my test, and I was going to be an instructor.
Yeah, that's what I was going to lead up to next. So you also, Tobin, who got you into competitive shooting in that same, right? You said he passed away in October of 2022. Yes. So you had that happened with him. And then towards graduation, you were looking at becoming a firearms instructor. Mm-hmm. And then that's when you had the near fatal car wreck that June. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
Okay. And so when you had that car wreck, you tell us a little bit about your injuries that you sustained with the car wreck.
Yeah. So major injuries was a broken right femur, broken left clavicle. I had 7 broken ribs, 5 on the right side, or 5 on the left side, 2 on the right. And then later on, they already knew that I kind of had a concussion, but they didn't know to what extent. But it wasn't until a couple of months after the car wreck that they realized that my concussion was very, very damaging. And so now I have headaches very, very frequently. They range from 2 to 7 hours a day. I have a severe light sensitivity in my eyes and occasionally a complete darkness in my eyes. And they've done a couple different tests and stuff like that. And it stems from the wreck. So.
And you had the first surgery on your right femur in, was it June or July? Was it right after the wreck or like a month after?
Yeah. So the wreck was June 12th. My first surgery was the femur surgery on the very next day on the 13th. And the 16th, I had a clavicle surgery.
Okay. And then you've since had a second surgery on your femur as well, correct? Last year?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
So, and that was you were saying that was due to a broken screw?
Yeah. So year 2023, I had found out December of 2022 into January of 2023 that I had been selected to compete at the Shotgun World Shoot in Thailand, which was, I believe, November of 2023. And after the wreck had happened and everything, I was like, I'm not going to be able to make it. And then I started healing pretty quickly. And I was consistently talking with my doctor, like, do you even think this is a possibility? And at the time he was like, it is a possibility. You're going to be able to go, as long as you don't do anything stupid. And I was like, I'm not doing anything stupid. And he was like, all right, then we're on track then. And then I was talking with who was my boyfriend at the time. I was talking with him and I was like, there's a match in Cross Timbers. I want to go to it. It was a girl and a gun 3-gun competition. And he was like, all right, we'll go. So we went and I was competing at that match, and first couple of stages, they weren't bad, but they weren't great either. And I was feeling okay. But I knew that I'd been pushing it a little too hard. So I started backing off a little bit. And then I went to the match director and was talking to her and was like, I don't know how much longer. I don't know if I can get through the match. And she told me, she was like, if you want to quit, you can quit, but do not feel like you have to. Don't feel like, you know, that we're all going to be like, we're going to be standing here behind you the whole way. Take a chair, sit down, don't reset or anything. Everyone else will take care of it. Like, if you want to continue shooting the match, I want you to continue shooting the match, but you're not going to hurt any of our feelings if you decide not to.
And that's great to have positive reinforcement from somebody too, especially when you're probably already nervous going into it.
Oh, absolutely.
You hadn't done anything for a little bit. So, and you're still dealing with recovering from the car wreck. So, okay, continue.
No, yeah, you're fine. So after that conversation, I was like, okay, I'm going to keep shooting, but I'm going to kind of back off a little bit. And then this one individual who was on the same squad as me, she came up and she wasn't rude, but she wasn't nice either. And she was like, if you're going to compete in Thailand this year, like, you need to continue shooting this match. Like, you need to put your all into it. I don't care if you're hurting, like, push through the pain. And I remember walking back to the truck and crying, and Eli had come up and he started hugging me and he was like, if you want to quit, you need to quit. He was like, none of them know what you're going through. They don't know what your pain level is. He was like, I can look at your face right now and tell you you're not okay. And I was like, I know I'm not okay. And he was like, if you want to keep going, I'm going to support you with it, but you do not need to feel obligated to. And I sat there, and then I overheard a conversation with the same person and another human being that was like, along the lines of, she's not going to be able to do this. You should just find, you know, another partner, or, you know, do this or whatever. And I remember in that moment, I looked at Eli and I was like, if someone's going to tell me I can't do something, I'm going to do everything in my power to prove them wrong.
Natural
and
somebody, prove them wrong. Yeah.
So after that, I kind of just, I didn't let anger consume me, but I let the positive reinforcement of I'm going to do this overwhelm me, and the adrenaline really kicked in. And I finished out the match, and I placed a lot higher than I was expecting at the match. There was a couple of other people there that I wasn't necessarily there to beat, but I was like, my goal is to finish as close to them as possible. And I came out of the match placing higher than all of them. And that made me feel really good inside at the fact that, okay, I know I can do this. I was in a lot of pain after, but I could do it.
Yeah, that's a great confidence booster too.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And then a couple weeks after that, I was on a work trip. My husband, he is a traveling welder. And so he had a trip. And at the time, I couldn't work or anything, so I just went along with him. And so we were down in Arkansas, and I woke up one morning and I heard a loud pop, and he turned around. He was like, are you okay? And I was like, I think I'm okay. And like, I could feel that it was in my leg, but I didn't know, like, I felt fine and everything was fine. I was like, okay, maybe it was just, you know, like, I was in a car wreck. I have foreign objects in my body. Maybe it's just something moving around. Like, I think I'm fine. And then a few days later, the pain really started to hit. And it was a very humbling experience, to the fact that, okay, maybe I shouldn't have done that, because now I'm in excruciating pain, and it hurt me mentally and physically. And I went to the doctor a couple weeks later and talked to him, and we ran some x-rays, and he was like, so I've got some bad news. And I just kind of looked at him, and he showed me the x-rays, and in my leg, I have a rod in my femur to obviously like keep it together. And then I've got a screw at the top of the rod and a screw at the bottom of the rod. And the bottom screw had completely snapped.
Oh my gosh.
And the screw had been slowly but surely for those next couple of months moving around so much that it was hitting my nerves and my tendons and stuff, to the point to where I was having knee issues. I was creating a very bad limp in my leg. And it wasn't good, because in the beginning he was like, okay, maybe this will help your leg grow more, because the rod sometimes can keep your leg from healing. He was like, we'll monitor this the next couple of months. If you get in a whole bunch of pain, we will take action immediately. And then around March, April of last year, I went back in. He was like, how are you doing? I was like, I'm not doing okay. And he was like, well, have you tried the pain meds? And coming from a past experience, I I can't for the life of me take anything like Benadryl, even messes with my head, just from, again, past experiences. I don't like what pain medication does to my body. I have seen people who have gotten addicted from pain meds, and that's not the route I want to take. It scares me.
Yeah, we've talked about that on this particular podcast with my life in particular, is that I don't like the way, I would rather feel the pain and know my limitations than take the pain meds. It sounds crazy, but I too have people I've dealt with in my life with pain pill addiction, and it can definitely traumatize somebody from wanting to take them, and it can skew their way of thinking of what pain meds are actually supposed to be for. And I think more so we get nervous that the pain meds may turn us into be somebody we're not. We may become a person where we rely on them heavily too much, especially in your situation if you're dealing with that kind of pain. So yeah, so I could see where you wouldn't want to take them.
Yeah. And so after talking with him, we finally scheduled out a date, and I don't remember I want to say it was like July 23rd of last year, but it was in July. Went in, and the nurse, I got really close with the nurse there. She was awesome, but her and I had a great sit down, good conversation. She was like, "You're gonna be okay. Like this is going to work. It's gonna be fine." And essentially, what they did is they went in and took the rod and screws out, reamed my bone to make it a little bit wider, put in a bigger rod and some more screws, and then, sewed me back up, and here I am. And since that surgery, I went back in for post-op I went back in a week after the surgery, and then I went back in a month after. And just within that month, my bone went from being healed, I want to say like 40 something percent to about 70 something percent just within that month.
Wow.
So,
that's amazing. And then did you say you recently just got married in March of this year?
Yes, I did.
And is that to what was the boyfriend that was very compassionate and understanding? Oh, look at that.
It is.
That's an awesome photo. You guys look good. But yeah, so, and that helps too when you have a great support system for somebody to be there for you, and not just, sometimes we want the extra push, but we need somebody also that knows our boundaries of our limitations and what we should and should not be doing, where they know you enough to be able to read your face. And so that sounds like he's got you nailed down to a T of how you are as a person. That's awesome. So, and unfortunately, there's sometimes where we don't have some people don't have a great support system, or they only have one or two people to count on. So the fact that your husband is your main support system, that's the way it should be. That's pretty awesome. So, and he stuck with you through it. I remember talking to you earlier, and I saw a video on your Facebook of you going back out and shooting. I think you were in overalls or like waders or something.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
When was that video? Was that part of the competition that you went out and tried again, or that was okay?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, that was from that match. That was in Cross Timbers in October that I shot.
Could tell. I mean, you could kind of tell by your gait that you were really pushing yourself. Like it wasn't a typical gait of somebody that's running, trying to shoot. So, where are you at now since you've been through the car wreck and you've been through all the surgeries and you're still having issues with the car wreck? Where are you at now in life when it comes to competitive shooting?
That is a question that I'm still kind of figuring out. So when it comes to competitive shooting, and I didn't realize this until after the car wreck, and people all the time come up to me and like who either know my story or, the topic just gets brought up and we start talking about, I was in a car wreck, and they're like, "Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm sorry that happened to you." And every time someone says that, I'm like, "No, do not apologize." Just from that wreck itself, I realized, the home situation I was in at the time, it was very toxic. I realized I found my walk with Christ. That's when I really found him and really became, I put him in the center of my relationship. I put him in the center of my life. I made him my Lord and Savior, I then realized with competing how much of a toll it was putting on not only my physical health, but also my mental health. Something that not a lot of people realize, and I don't necessarily want to say that they don't realize it, but because I've had a couple of conversations with people who still compete on like a sponsorship level, but having sponsors where they're great, you get the product, sometimes you get the financial backing from them, you get to be in the industry a little bit more with those sponsors. There is so much on the back end that especially people who don't know the extent of like what competitive shooting is, they're like, oh my goodness, you have all these sponsors, you must have so much great stuff, this is so much fun for you. And where it is fun, having those sponsors for me, it made it not fun. In the beginning when I started competing, I was doing it for me. And then at the tail end, again, especially after the car wreck and everything like that, I grew to realize I wasn't having fun anymore, and it had turned into a job.
Yeah, and I told you earlier, that is so relatable. Rob would know this too. Like, it's not just, you have it with me within bowling, you have it in pretty much any sport, like even competitive shooting. I didn't realize there was so much sponsorship involved in competitive shooting either that's there. But you have that with anybody. I've had sponsorships before. I've had a backer. I've had people that I've been on staff with. And there is a certain level where you take personal pressure, and not just peer pressure, but it's personal pressure to perform at a certain level, but also representing a brand. So it creates more nervousness than you would essentially feel to begin with. So I can imagine at your age and having the sponsorships are probably people paying for you to go do things or giving you things to shoot and represent a brand, how that would feel at a young age, because you were competitively shooting at a pretty young age. So I do find when I talk to, I think the most compelling thing for me and most inspiring thing was that sometimes when we go through hardships, everybody, they empathize and they sympathize. They don't know what to say, or they just feel bad. As humans in nature, we feel bad when bad situations happen to people. But the fact that you were able to turn it around and pick something positive out of it for your life and run with it and make it your own story and not let the story control you or your life, you're still controlling your life, is so inspiring to me. That's what made me almost cry when I first talked to you. Because I think a lot of times we just get so focused on the negative and everything that has gone wrong in our life and can go wrong. And we always think about the what ifs and the whys, but we don't stop to think about what good that's done for us. So I really am, I've told you this, I don't know, 3-4 times in the past month. I'm really proud of you for actually stepping out of your comfort zone and being willing to be on a public forum and share your story, because I think a lot of people can benefit from it. I personally have benefited from it, even with everything I've been through in life. Your story has helped me too. So I think that's really commendable. But when you started following along the path of Christ and putting him in the center of everything, how has your life changed since you've done that and you've decided that the wreck didn't change your life all for the negative, and it didn't impact your life maybe, and things didn't happen in your life the way that you saw them to happen? You didn't get to go to Thailand, you didn't get to do certain things with your life, but you were still able to function and move around, and it didn't take your life. So how has it changed your life for you in a perspective way, like how you view life now for you at your age, not just outside of being married as well?
Yeah, so I feel like I've always been one of those that tried to look at the positives in every situation, but at the same time, we're all human, and I, like, before the car wreck and everything, I had a relationship with Christ, but it wasn't strong. And not necessarily that anybody like peer pressured me, but due to some situations, like I was kept out of a church, I was not allowed to go to church, that kind of thing. So I was struggling on it was a spiritual battle for, 5, 6, 7 years before the car wreck even happened. And I found myself drifting into, I was cussing all the time. I was always, which also being in the competitive shooting world and even the firearms industry, that also kind of comes with the territory a little bit. But one little thing would happen, and mentally I would just be spiraling. And like on the outside, it might seem like I had myself put together, but that was not the case at all. I would always look at situations and be like, well, that could be better, but I don't like this person anymore. You know, I was one to hold grudges. I was one to not necessarily follow along with the crowd, but always find myself looking at other crowds and looking at myself and being like, I wish I looked like that, or I wish I had that, or, you know, that kind of thing. And then after the car wreck, and after I kind of changed, not necessarily changed, but after I grew as a human being after the wreck and everything, life is life, and life is, it's not fun. In any situation, good, bad, ugly, you have to look at the positives and you have to get through it, because bringing yourself down and bringing others down with you is probably one of the worst things mentally, physically. Like, it's exhausting. And anymore, like, I've tried, everyone's still going to fall. I have fallen still, you know, after the wreck and stuff, but I find myself slowly but surely picking myself back up. And I think it's important now to realize, like, all of the people who I would hold grudges for, one of them being like with my parents, stuff like that, they're all forgiven. You know, God says we need to forgive, but we don't have to forget. And that's how I live my day to day. You also, I was also one to where somebody would come at me with something. I'd be like, okay. And then I would fire back with something else. And now it's one of those, what are you going, like, you don't know what anybody else is going through. You know, someone could have easily died in their life and they're going through a hard time, and that's why they lashed out. Or there could be something else going on the inside that, again, you don't know about. So now I really try to, where I still struggle with it sometimes, I now try to put themselves in my shoes, or me in their shoes, essentially. I'm like, okay, we'll talk about this later. Or, you know, I'll let it go in one ear, out the other, and kind of just forget that it ever happened, because in the end, we're all human. We're all going to make mistakes, and we all need to be there for each other. And instead of tearing each other down, we really just need to start building them up. So that's really,
like, you've learned a good copious amount of patience. So that's patience and understanding. And then I've always been one to do that, to say that. I think I actually posted something about that today, is like, before you speak or act towards someone, you should probably think about how your actions or words are going to affect them. Put yourself in their shoes and see. Sometimes a lot of people are too busy listening to respond, that we're not taking time to listen to understand what someone is trying to say. It's the same thing with you. Like you said, with your husband, he can look at you and he already understands where you're at mentally. He doesn't even need to talk to you. That's a great bond to have. That's a strong bond. So I'd encourage you to keep that, because that's a rarity. That means you guys are best friends and good. But yeah, I agree with you. I think there's been several things in my life that have happened too. I used to do the whole feel bad for myself. Why is this happening? I loved that victim card for many years of my life, because everything just was horrible. And then one day I had, like you, last summer, I had a situation that happened, and we've talked about it in a previous episode, and that brought me closer to my faith as well. Believing that I have a purpose that I'm supposed to be fulfilling. And that's why God didn't allow me to take my own life, because there's something more that I'm supposed to be doing with my life. Same with you. You got in a car wreck and it ruined the plans at the time and ruined things you had going for you that were great. And most kids would literally strive and be completely jealous of someone in your stature with that. But the fact that you're able to turn it around and make something positive out of it says a lot. I think more people need to be like that in life too. I mean, we all go through hard times, and like we've said many times on the show before, everyone's heart is different from one day to the next. And one day can be hard and one day can be easy. And I'm sure you know that as well, with covering with everything that you're going through from the car wreck. So I mean, maybe your purpose with going and being one of the best in the world, and then having the car wreck, and then having everything happen, and then you get married. Maybe that future firearm instructor capability could still be there to a certain degree. I would encourage you, if your heart is still set on competitive shooting, if that's really where your heart is at, and you feel that's something that does bring you some kind of purpose or joy or satisfaction, kind of look into what you could do to help you maintain a part of your life that was a good part of your life. I do remember there would be one key component to that. I remember you talking about that may not help you with that, though, which is where I've experienced with bowling as well, is that the people that were saying mean things and that were saying hateful things and that were talking behind your back or saying things and making you feel like you can't do it, kind of took the love out of the sport for you for a little while there. So yeah. I know that pain, and it is hard to come back from, because you have to really sit with yourself and think about what brings you joy in the sport. Is it the sport, or is it the people giving you the accolades of the sport because you're so good, or is it your own self-fulfillment because it is something that actually genuinely brings you joy? So I would encourage you're still young enough and you've overcome so much already. I would still encourage you to look into that before completely giving it up and seeing if there was anything still left for you there. The fact that you went out and tried to compete is amazing. I mean, I got to give it to you. I couldn't do it. I've watched your videos. I watched several other people's, and like you talked about the box, like shooting behind the box, and they're just running from box to box. I have a few of those friends that do that, and in any capacity, it's not something I could do or be good at.
Don't say that.
I don't think so. I've been to the gun range once with my boyfriend, and I didn't really like it a whole lot. So, but we're gonna have to try to get me something to where I have some self-protection. So
yeah,
have to get into that. But I did want to I wanted to go a little bit back to the beginning, just because I wanted to touch base. I too had a coach with bowling. So I know when you get a coach and you get an instructor, they become a certain facet in your life that is that initial support system, the person that teaches you everything and gives you very good tips or tricks, and kind of leaves you with some type of positivity in your life. So I know you had a hard time when Tobin passed away, because he was essentially that for you. Is there anything that Tobin taught you or talked to you about that still sticks with you to this day that could not just be used with competitive shooting as advice, but also life advice?
There's multiple, but one phrase that he used to tell me all the time, that still sticks with me till this day, and I'm gonna change it up a little bit, especially with me now being Katelynn Cochran and no longer Caitlin Wheeler. But anytime that, because he was always one of those people you can go to about anything. You know, he knew what was going on behind closed doors. He knew who I was inside and out, and he was one of the only people who was truly there for me and didn't care about what anybody else thought, you know. And if I messed up, he was like, all right, that was stupid, but now how are you how are you gonna, you know, come back for this, or how are you going to keep moving forward from this? And every time that I saw him, and anytime we ever, you know, had one of those conversations, he would always look at me and he would give me a hug, and he would always say, "You're Katelynn effing Cochran." And that was his personality. That is, like I said, that is one saying that I still say till this day in my head when I start going through like a bad spell or something. And I think other people can take that too and run with that exact same phrase, you know, even in a different way. Because no matter no matter what somebody else thinks of you, you are your own person, and you are who you are, you know, whether they like it, whether they don't like it. And sometimes people are just going to have to get over that. And you have to make your own story. You have to make your own life. You know, people are going to have their opinions about you, and you have to learn to get over that. Yeah. But you are who you are.
Yeah. You can be your own worst enemy and your own biggest cheerleader.
Yes.
All at the same time. We're our own mirror. So that's some great advice. That's awesome. So next time I have a hard day, I'm gonna say that to myself, and that's gonna work. So anyways, is there anything else that you wanted to touch on or talk about? I think you've done a fantastic job. So
yeah. I don't think so. I think
Okay,
I pretty much covered everything.
awesome. Well, I am so proud of you, Caitlyn, not just for coming on the show and sharing your story, but also for being the absolute epitome of what resiliency is. You really went through a lot. You worked really hard to get where you were at, and then to feel like it was all taken away from you, and then you bounced back. You are exactly what this show is about. And you are living a great life. You have a great person in your life, great support system, and you're probably stronger now than you probably would have been had that not happened to you. So I appreciate you coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much again for having me.
Yeah.
No problem. It was great to hear your story, and you are super inspirational. You're wise beyond your years. I know that's kind of a cliche, but to have the ability to persevere at such a young age is remarkable. And I know Christ has a lot to do with that, as I am born again as well. And he's gotten me through plenty of times, including right now as I'm out of work. It's all part of the plan. We don't know why things happen the way they do, but obviously things do happen for a reason. People are putting each other's lives for a reason, and
Absolutely.
we're so thankful that you're able to come on tonight.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, you have a good night, and we'll absolutely stay in touch with you. And good luck in the future. Hopefully, I think Amanda's right. I still think that fire for competitive shooting is still there, and even if you're not competing, at least you're helping others compete and train others to compete in something that you love to do. But in any event, we appreciate you, and you have a great night. We'll see you next time.
You too. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. She's a great, I don't say kid, but I mean, I'm 49, so to me, she's still a kid.
To me, she's a kid.
She's fantastic. She really was.
She's great. I mean, she was a ball of nerves over the last couple weeks, and then she reached out yesterday and wanted to talk to me today before the show, and she made a comment to me that I've heard before from a couple people, but we got on the phone, and within one sentence to her, she's like, "Okay, I'm good now."
That's great.
I guess she just needed that soft, soothing, like mama bear type voice to her to help her get through the show. And there were some things on her life like she didn't want to touch on. She didn't want to go too deep about. She didn't want to get emotional on the show, which I told her, that's what our show is about. We respect people's boundaries and respect their feelings. And I basically made her realize, like, we just want to give you a platform to tell your story, but also show people that you can have tragedy happen in your life without losing it and still bounce back and do something great. So she's amazing. I'm telling you, it took me all I had when she was talking about Tobin, her coach instructor, not to cry, because I too, I have a bowling coach I saw for about 6 months, and he was amazing. And he taught me so many things. And when you feel like your sport that you're passionate about and you love so much could be taken away from you, whether it be tragedy or other people, there's Tobin. Yeah. It can really hurt, and detriment the love and joy and passion that you have for that. So I think in helping her realize that Tobin is still with her in spirit and she can remember, thanks, Mike, that's nice of you to say. But giving her that memories to bounce back off of with Tobin, maybe to help bring her back to the surface level of competitive shooting, is great too, because that's what I had to do that this whole summer when I took off from bowling. I had to remind myself, why did you get into it? Why do you love it? What did your coach teach you? Why did you pay all that money for a coach? They didn't teach you nothing. And so once you bring yourself back to realizing, you shouldn't ever let other people dictate what you love in life, or what hobby you partake in, or take that joy away from you. I see that, and I see people experiencing it now, that they're allowing other people to ruin their hobby. And that's not really a way we should live our life. We should still be able to enjoy what we want to do, regardless of whether, like she said, regardless of what other people think or say. So I think she still has after talking to her, I think she still has the love and passion and fire in her there for shooting. I think she just has to get over the hurdle of maybe she won't be as good as she used to be, but she's still good. And like I told her, we relate a lot on a lot of different levels, but on that one in particular, because I didn't have this last year wasn't my best year, but I'm still able to compete and I still get joy out of it. So she is quite the remarkable young lady. Next week we have Kenzie West and Chayton Peterson, if he decides to actually miss his golf league night to come on the show. They are with Championship Bowling. I bowl in almost all of their events except for the ones that are in Las Vegas, Nevada. They just finished an event in Lehigh, Utah. Last weekend or the weekend before, I can't remember. I live streamed the intense matches to the championship where Gio Clina's won. I can't wait to pick their brain about that. But they have another one coming up September 12th through the 14th, and I'll be participating in that one down in Roy, Utah. That'll be my big first tournament since Women's Nationals in May. So I am super duper excited to participate. I don't feel I've had enough practice to go there and compete, but I'm going to have fun with it anyways, and get to visit family while I'm down there. They are amazing people though. Chayton works at the Storm facility down in Utah. Kenzie is the boss. That's what we call her. The boss. Everyone knows she runs the show.
Right.
They are two people that I don't even think they know what they mean to me or what Championship Bowling does. They're the people that got me over my fear of being live streamed while bowling. They got me over my fear of the camera. And they are the most humble, nicest humans. They've tried so much to make not only competitive bowling equal across the board for all competitors, whether it be youth, seniors, ladies, men. They've done a phenomenal job, and Championship Bowling just keeps growing. And I'm really excited to have them on the show to hear how this idea came about and what all has comprised of it and where they plan on going. I know they have implemented some changes for this tournament that I'm going to be participating in, but they're wonderful. And it's a family thing. Their family works with them on it. They're awesome people. So I'm excited to have them on. I've touched base with a few of some of our future guests we're having on the show. And I am happy to announce that we are booked officially through January 1.
That's crazy. That is absolutely crazy.
We are booked. We have 1 week in September we'll miss because Rob's on vacation. And then I think 1 week in November we're probably going to miss because of Thanksgiving. So we may just if anything, we may pre-record something of just me and Rob with a few topics I want to touch on. I've had a few people message me lately with ideas for topics they have for the show. So if anybody out there has ideas for topics of a show and they want me and Rob to cover, I'm more than willing to do so. Or if you know of anybody that has a story, please send them our way. I'm really excited for the fact that we have a veteran that is going to be on the show. And now we have a Veterans Foundation that has agreed to be on the show. So we have all different types of stories that we want to have on the show. It's not just one, mental health awareness. I want to make that clear. We want a lot of different types of life stories to come on the show. Like Chayton and Kenzie have to do with bowling. So I just want to show what it is like to empower other people by challenging yourself and going after goals that you set in life, because it is very well possible with the right support system and the right people in your circle. You can almost accomplish anything.
It's true.
So anyways, and then I personally, I've been having a rough couple days mentally, just a lot going on, but I am so unbelievably grateful. Our private Facebook group page is almost to 300 members.
That's awesome.
That's ridiculous to me. It's been almost a month now we've had that. We've gained some YouTube subscribers since Heather's appearance last week. Our views are keep going on the upswing. And then, like I said, I'm very thankful for the people that I wake up every Wednesday to messages of people saying thank you or talking about the show and how great it was or what they took from it. And that's the biggest thing, is anybody that's listening can take something out of somebody's appearance on the show, or even from us. If you listen, and you can always take a little nugget of excellence from it or knowledge. So I just want to personally say thank you. I'm so grateful. I did not think that this would go to the level it was. I was stressing like 2 weeks ago, because I'm a planner. I'm very much
Right.
and I was stressing about, what am I going to do when I run out of people to come on the show? And I'm going to be scrounging for people. But lo and behold, like, I just have to look through just my Facebook followers and I can find people that have stories. Everybody has a story. It's just if they're willing to share it or not. So I'm very, very excited for future upcoming guests. I'm very thankful and grateful for the listeners. And again, if you're listening, leave us a comment on this YouTube video or a like, and give us a follow. You can also follow us on any of the podcast audio platforms that are out there. So I just wanted to personally thank all the listeners. I'm very grateful for it.
As am I. And I'm thankful for you. And I can't believe we're through 5 episodes already. That's crazy.
Yeah. It went really fast.
It's been 5 weeks. That's nuts.
And we may be changing just a tidbit for whoever is listening or will listen into this. We may be changing times to go a little bit sooner than what we've been, just so we can get a little bit more, I guess, interaction. And plus, Rob's got a little girl that needs to get to bed a little bit earlier, and
she's sad that I can't put her to bed. So,
So we're going to change it up a little bit. I'm sure the guests will be a little bit happier about that, because we have some in the East Coast time zones and they're 2 hours ahead. So maybe we can get that changed for our guest that's in 2 weeks that lives in Florida.
I'm sure they'd be thankful for that too.
Yeah, we'll see what his schedule is like. But anyways, so thanks to all the listeners. And it was another great episode. And I can't thank Caitlyn enough for doing that. It's a lot of courage.
Yes, she is super cool and super down to earth. She was a natural. She's honestly a natural.
I didn't
engaging.
have to poke her prod at all.
No, you didn't. She's very engaging and very charismatic. And I'm excited to see what she does for the future. If it's not in the public eye, then that, if that's what she chooses, that's fine. But whatever she chooses to do, she's great. She really, I can't say enough good things about her. So well, thank you guys for listening and watching. We'll be back next week with Kenzie West and
Chayton Peterson.
Chayton. I get the Chayton.
Okay, we all
I've never
know
heard Chayton before. Yeah, I'm sorry, Chayton. I'll make sure I get that right for next week. But they'll be on next week. Pay attention to our socials as well. If we do end up going live earlier, follow us on Reset and Rise podcast on Instagram and TikTok. And if you want to join our private Facebook group as well, just search Reset and Rise podcast and we'll let you in. All right, Randa, I appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
We'll see you guys next week. Take care, everybody.